Today in an exclusive, we talk to Gabby's family about her life, what they hope for her legacy, and the ongoing hunt for Brian Laundrie. Well, thank you guys for sitting down. So everyone knows, I've introduced the audience to Joe, to you, and Tara. You're Gabby's biological father, and you're the stepmother, but you have been involved in Gabby's life since she was one?
Since she was one, yes.
Yeah, so you've been very active in her life.
Yes.
And then, Nicole, you're the biological mother. And Jim, you've been involved how long?
Since she was two.
Since she was two.
Yeah.
So everybody here has been involved parent-wise for really her whole life.
Yeah.
And also, I want to introduce Richard Stafford. You're the attorney that has helped these guys navigate this very difficult terrain. And I want to say Richard has been terrific to work with, so thank you very much for taking your time to be here. And thanks for all you're doing for these guys as well, because this is a difficult time, and to have someone objective that kind of stays on top of everything takes a huge load off of them. Would you guys agree that he's...
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was unreal. So he's done a tremendous job for us.
Stepped right up.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
We appreciate you and appreciate your being here. Joe, let me start with you. When you and I last spoke, which I was sorry for the occasion, but have to say I felt an immediate bond with you, just kind of dad to dad and man to man. At that point, we didn't know about Gabby's fate.
No.
And since that time, tragically, we do know her fate. We know that she's gone. And I think when we talked, you and I, we pretty much knew that the chances were pretty slim that it was going to be a good outcome.
I wasn't naive to the fact, and we were just hoping, of some type of scenario that was just wild but we still had a job to do. We had to find her, we had to bring her home, and we completed that task. So.
And how did you learn the news? How did it actually get to you that she had been found?
Jim was in Wyoming. He's the one that was there, and I guess there was some clothing that was identifying and stuff. And
But was it Jim that called you?
yeah,
We got on a conference call.
yeah, we've
All of you did?
Yep. So I was in Florida, Nikki was in New York, Jim was in Wyoming. Like, we tried to strategically place ourselves to best suit what the FBI was asking for. And like I said, we've always been a team. So Jim was there, and when they found her, they had some identifying stuff. And Jim got on a call with us, and that's when he told us. And
Jim, you had gone to Wyoming and stayed there because you felt like she was going to be found there, and you felt like somebody needed to be there.
Yeah, it was just something, deep down that I knew she was there, and just going off the information that we had, we felt that somebody had to be there. And I said right away that I would go, and we felt we needed to put our family out there so we could show that we're here trying to do what we can.
When you were there, where were you when they found Gabby, and how did they tell you?
We received a call from the FBI that they had some information that they wanted to share with us. And the hotel we were in was very gracious to accommodate us, and they gave us a conference room quite a few times to meet in with some privacy. There was the two people from the FBI that had called.
When did they show you the article of clothing?
They described a piece of clothing to me that matched one of her favorite sweatshirts that we knew was hers.
So at one point they presented you with some identifying information so you could verify that it was
Yes.
her.
If I can add, it was from a local shop,
It was a
so that
local
we
shop.
knew it was her.
It was her.
Yeah.
And there was at least 4 people in that area that were missing around the same time. One of those persons actually has also recently been found, but there was another girl out there who would closely match the description of Gabby, so that's why they wanted to be very careful about saying we found remains and before the coroner can positively identify.
So you had to make this call to Nikki, her mother, and Joe and Tara.
Yeah.
That had to be the hardest call of your entire life.
Yes. We were all crying in the room. You know, couldn't believe it because we were holding out for hope. I knew what we were potentially going to find when we came here, and I felt that it was my responsibility to make that call. And I was able to compose myself, and we got everybody on a conference call, and I was able to relay it to everyone.
Nikki, what did he say to you when you were on that call? What do you remember?
He said that they found remains. And we knew it was Gabby. Even though we were hoping it wasn't. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to listen to, and it didn't hit me right away, and for a few seconds. But I knew she was gone. As a mom, I knew she was gone.
You're just instinctually, you knew. Mm-hmm. And at what point did your mother's intuition tell you that she was gone?
I didn't want to admit it, but I felt it the night I found out the van was in Florida on the 11th. I felt in my heart that she was gone.
Just you knew then. Tara, what went through your mind when you heard this?
At first, I didn't want to believe it. I think my body just went into shock. It took me a minute, and then just you break down. You just fall and cry and just, it's horrible. It's just horrible, horrible, horrible. Because you have all this hope that maybe she will be found, and you know that it can happen, and it's horrible.
At that point, it hits you, and then the questions start pouring. You know, how did this happen? Why did this happen? What could have been done? You know, what did you miss? You start asking yourself a million questions, of course. Mm-hmm. What did you say to yourself, Joe?
You know, listen, I can Monday morning quarterback this all day long. You know, maybe if I pushed harder, you know, to not do it or plan better, or there's really, she's 22. This is not a 14-year-old girl, you know, going on a school trip here. You know, she's an adult, and she's got to make her decisions. So we respected her decisions. We tried to, all of us, tried to best prepare her, and she knew what she was doing. This is not like she decided to, you know, yesterday that she's going on a 3-month trip here, you know. She planned this for a while, for like a year and a half, and that made me feel more confident. And anything that I think about in terms of changing it, it's just gonna make me go down that rabbit hole, and that's just not gonna help me either.
I mean, you can play what if we'd done this, what if we'd said that, what if we'd done this, what if we'd have seen that. And that is a rabbit hole, and it's a bottomless rabbit hole. There's no way you can ever come up with enough answers to satisfy yourself. At this point, you still don't know exactly what happened, right? You still don't have the results of the autopsy at this point. You don't know how this happened.
No.
Is there any doubt in your mind who caused her death?
We've been told by the FBI that it's a homicide.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say, to be honest. I'll leave that for the authorities and stuff to figure out, but she's gone. And to me, and I'm not gonna speak for everyone here, but to me, I need to find meaning behind it. It can't be in vain. It can't be a meaningless death. I won't let that happen. I'm not gonna let him take her name in vain. So I gotta find some positive things that have come from this. Because otherwise I will go down that rabbit hole, and I can't have that happen.
How do you feel about it?
I'm angry. I know who the last person was that was with her. I can't point fingers until we know for sure. but
Well, let's talk about what you do know for sure, because we don't know what happened, but we do know that Brian Laundrie came home in her van without her and didn't tell anybody. That's a fact. I mean, that we know. He didn't call you.
No, he didn't
call
tell
you.
us.
He didn't tell you guys.
I don't know if he told anyone, but he didn't tell us.
That's what I'm saying. The four of you here, he didn't tell anybody here.
as far as we knew, our daughter was camping in.
We don't know what happened, but we do know that Brian Laundrie came home in her van without her. How do you square that in your mind? Is that why you're angry?
Yes.
I mean, obviously you're angry that she's gone, but and you don't know what he did or didn't do, but you do know that he came home without her and didn't
Yes.
tell anybody.
It's infuriating.
We deserve answers.
You do deserve answers. And to pretend that that's not infuriating is disingenuous, of course. And you do know, at least his parents have said he did come home. None of you saw him in the house, but you know his parents said he came home.
Well, the van had to get there somehow.
That's
had to-
right.
The van got there, and whatever happened with his parents after that, I don't know. But
We can only speculate. We don't know.
yeah, I honestly don't know. And to be honest with you, they probably wouldn't tell the truth to begin with. So whatever.
Joe and Nicole both called Roberta asking if...
Not just
Called
Yeah,
and text.
Roberta. Any phone number I get for that family. There were a couple numbers for the
Police
mom.
officers called her. Detectives called her.
But you all called.
Yes.
Oh, we
You
called.
called,
Yes.
you called.
I can't tell you how many times.
She called.
You called and you
He
called.
called.
And what did you get?
No response.
Voicemails.
Nothing.
Voicemails.
And then I would send texts on top of that.
No response.
One of the texts, we're going to call the police, right? You know, just letting you know, because we have no idea. No responses. No, a normal parent, when you text someone that they're going to call the cops because you can't find your child, they would reply.
Nothing.
No response, no nothing.
So he leaves with your daughter in her van, comes back without your daughter in her van, and you contact the parents and say, what the hell? Give us some information. Stonewall.
We actually didn't
Well,
know
at
the
that
van
point,
was
yeah.
in Florida at the time when we contacted her. I was just worried I hadn't heard from her. So
You didn't even know
I
the
didn't
van
know
was
about
back.
the van until the
didn't know
11th.
We actually thought they were both missing at that point in time when we were calling them.
I was worried about both of them.
And when did you learn the van was back?
The night of the 11th, when I reported her missing, the detective came to my door and let me know that the van was in Florida.
And that's when you said you knew bad news.
Well, it was a combination of that and that he requested to speak to a lawyer and wouldn't speak to the
Yeah.
police department.
Lawyered up, no cops.
Correct.
Well, to be honest, we don't even know if he did that. That's what the parents did. That's what they did. They had papers at the door, handed it to whoever knocked on the door, talked to the attorney.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not how you parent.
You think they owed you an answer?
I think they owe me more than that. You know, I'm a dad. I make my kids stand up for their decisions. You know, if they make a mistake, I'll help you. I'll walk you through that path, but you're gonna own up to your mistake, because that's what a parent does, not what they're doing. I'm sorry.
Do you think they know where he is now? If they do, you believe they should pick up the phone and tell you?
Somebody needs to start talking. I do believe they know a lot more information than they're putting out there.
You need to do the right thing and have them own up to it, whatever it may be, whatever the consequences may be, and that is part of being a parent.
And this is about a woman that lived in their house, that was at one point engaged to their son, and they won't talk to their family. They won't reach out and explain that their daughter's missing. They ignore the phone calls.
Yeah, that's the thing. These parents, and I'm glad you brought that up, because these parents had a relationship with Gabby.
It's not a stranger.
They lived under the same roof. They shared their home. They shared their lives with this young woman. And then all of a sudden, just turn their back and stonewall. And that's cold. And I have a question for you as a defense lawyer here.
Yes.
Because, you know, I worked for years, mostly on the defense side of the docket, at a jury level, in trial. And I always look at what's the story you're going to tell the jury ultimately. Is a parent helping a child by furthering and covering up a really bad deed instead of advocating for the child to step up and be accountable? Is that not a better jury presentation instead of hiding, going on the run, stonewalling police, obstructing? How is that good parenting? It doesn't seem to me that they're creating a narrative that any jury is going to do anything except be infuriated by.
Correct. They're not helping their son at all. That when you look as a prosecutor, we don't know what happened here. Now, I'm sure the FBI has a lot more evidence than we have. You can look at his state of mind by his actions. And he ran, he stole her credit card, he used her credit card to get home, and then ran from the police. That's going to show a lot what he was thinking back then.
I'm hoping the parents are watching this because everything he's doing is making him look more and more guilty, more and more culpable, more and more insidious than any other thing he could possibly be doing. It's showing no remorse, it's showing no empathy. Everything he's doing is to his detriment right now.
Correct. And again, I don't know what story he's going to try to tell, but it's not going to make any sense when you put it together with his actions from that moment forward. That he's running, that he's hiding, that he's trying to deceive everybody around him.
And people who have nothing to hide nothing. So why not be completely transparent?
I'll even take a little bit of hazy, you know? I mean, if you get transparent, I mean, they're not going to do that, but I mean, it's just a black. There's nothing there. They got nothing, and they're not going to start now, I'll tell you that.
And nothing's going to bring her back, but you feel like you're entitled to answers, that it helps you to know, to complete the story, to complete the circle, if you know what happened and how and why. It helps you know.
I feel like I need to know.
Part of the closure.
It's like if you could orchestrate a bad strategy for everybody involved, this is it.
Correct.
And I'm hoping they're listening to this. I hope that they are listening right now to say, we're not helping anybody here. We're not helping Brian. We're not helping ourselves. We're not helping Joe and Tara. We're not helping Jim and Nikki. We're not helping anybody here. We're being destructive at every possible turn for everybody involved.
But I don't think they're going to listen. They didn't help us find Gabby. They're not helping us find Brian.
We couldn't find Gabby. What did we do to find Gabby? I mean, we did anything to find Gabby. We talked to everyone we could, get on as many cameras as we could. What did they do to find Brian? They called the cops, haven't done a thing since. I haven't seen them on any TV shows find Brian. Why do you think that is? We couldn't find Gabby. What did we do to find Gabby? I mean, we did anything to find Gabby. What did they do to find Brian? I haven't seen them on any TV shows find Brian. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's two reasons, of course, that are obvious. Number one is they already know where he is. Number two, they don't want him found. Is there another explanation? If there is, somebody tell me, because I don't know. I've done jury trial after jury trial after jury trial, criminal, civil, every possible way. I'm telling you, I would never advocate for this strategy ever, under any theory whatsoever. It just tells me that these people are on self-destruct. And I'm sorry for you guys that you're having to live with that and deal with that, because somebody is not being realistic here.
It's almost like living in a soap opera. Like it's just a bad show. Like you don't think things like this would happen in real life. It's unfathomable. It really is.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
It makes no sense.
Our emotions are already all over the place, and now this just plays with them.
And they have the key, and then
They threw the key away.
they don't care.
Let me ask you guys for your opinion, and you have an opinion, and you're entitled to it. I think at first, many people thought that Brian was so distraught that he went off and killed himself, took his own life. Do y'all now 100% believe that he is out there hiding somewhere? You believe he's hiding somewhere? You believe he's hiding somewhere? Do you believe he's hiding somewhere?
I do.
Why do you believe that?
Because he's a coward. Flat out. I'd use some other words, but I can't use them on your show. He's a coward.
He's too coward to kill himself, too coward to come forward.
Yep.
He's just on the run.
Anyone that lived in that house is a coward. And they don't know how to stand up for their actions. They are.
Where do you think he is likely at? You know him. You know what he is, does, knows. Is he living off the land somewhere?
Possibly.
Does he have that skill set?
I believe so.
I mean, is he an environmentalist, survivalist type? I mean, he knows camping, knows...
I believe he bragged about that, like that he was good at that stuff.
So he's likely in the woods or the mountains or somewhere, somehow, living that way?
Somewhere
Possible.
off the beaten path somewhere. Just thinking he's not going to get caught, I guess, or
Or it'll just go away. I don't know.
or it'll, yeah.
The reason I ask that is because every market that's big enough to have a television station, we're on in right now. So if everything that we can say that helps people to know where to pay attention helps. So knowing that he does brag about being able to camp and fish and live in the woods and off the land and stuff like that, people have cameras up. You got millions of eyeballs and cameras.
It worked with Finding Gabby.
Yes.
People go on these trips, people take photos, videos, and you might not be aware of what is in the surroundings behind you because you're focusing on that picture that you want to take.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people went back and looked into these things, and that's when they found a video, or they found a picture, or they remember something. The same thing can apply here.
Problem is we don't know where. Again, it goes back to the same problem we had last time. It could be anywhere. They had such a head start because they didn't pick up the phone, so they got up.
Which is why everyone needs to pay attention.
Yeah.
North Carolina authorities are investigating calls that Brian is hiding on the Appalachian Trail. Do you think he's capable of doing that?
Yeah, some of the trips that they took before this, that was one of the things that we kind of worried about before this trip was in the Appalachian Trail. So you always hear different stories about things that happen there and how really desolate it is in certain areas, and that was always a concern of ours.
She always came home safe.
She
She'd go
always
for
came
3
home
or 4
safe.
days and then they'd come home and they were
But
fine.
they are familiar. He is familiar
He's
with
very
that area.
familiar with it, yes.
If he's watching this and stranger things have happened, what would you say to him if he's watching this right this minute?
This is where I should wash my mouth, right?
Turn yourself in.
Turn yourself in.
Turn yourself
Turn
in.
yourself in.
Turn yourself in.
Why?
We want to know the truth.
Because if you truly loved her, you should turn yourself in.
You're only making it worse for us and for himself and for his family. Let us have some closure. Let us come to an end to this tragic period and just move on and be able to remember Gabby for all the wonderful memories we had with her and not looking at a TV screen every day wondering if he's going to be found. Just turn yourself in.
That's damn good advice. And Brian, if you're listening to me right now, let me tell you something. You may have done the wrong thing then. Do the right thing now, because you're not helping yourself at this point. You are alienating more people, and when you're in a hole, stop digging. They're not going to stop looking at you. I got a big platform and a big mouth, and I am not letting this go away. I don't care what your mother's telling you. I don't care what your lawyer's telling you. Do the right thing and turn yourself in right now. Fair enough?
Well said.
Yes.
Better than I could say.
He can't change what he did back in Wyoming, but he can change his actions now.
Exactly. And that can have an effect. Can't give you Gabby back, but it can change the course of where you go from here.
And we got a plan for that.
You all got a tattoo to honor Gabby.
Several, actually.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's share that with. And I see here that you've all got on your arm, "Let it be."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this one first. Why Let It Be?
It was kind of like her slogan, you know, she's a big Beatles fan, and, you know, she tried not to harp on things, you know, like, all right.
And that's exactly where she had it on her.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's where she had all of them were
Where
her
she had them.
tattoos. You know, she kind of designed like the little wave and the triangle with the flowers.
Yeah, the one right here. Yeah, she had this one on her, and she designed this one. She was an amazing artist, so.
And tell me about this.
She drew it.
triangle
She drew
with
it.
Flowers.
Yeah, she drew it.
She drew it.
She
That was her.
wanted something, she wanted to start getting arm tattoos, so she sat and she just doodled until she found something she liked, and I said, that's the one, that's pretty, and she got it.
She actually, before she left on her trip, bought a tattoo machine.
I bought her a tattoo
We
machine.
bought it for her. And I wasn't too quick to let her try on me, but our son was like, yeah, go for it. And he actually got a tattoo.
18,
He's
so.
18. You know, so it was his like graduation present from his sister. And he likes to camp and hike and stuff. And so she put a little tattoo on his leg with mountains and a tent, and it's something for him to always have for his sister.
Basically like her last piece of artwork, and he has it on his body.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
Literally on his body,
special is that?
yeah.
Yeah.
And he'll never touch that. I mean, I got the one on the hand because apparently I talk a lot with my hand, you know, and I see it and just keep thinking of her, you know, so this is the one that she had right where she had it.
You guys don't blame yourselves and play the what if game, because you can't see around corners, and you couldn't do anything about it if you did. When she goes 18, parents become advisors, not directors. When they're 16, you can say do A, B, and C. When they become 18 in one day, you can say, you might consider this, but you can't tell her what to do or not do.
You're still gonna do it.
Well, that's exactly.
You can try.
You're still gonna say to yourself the what ifs, if, you know, it's, but if you focus on that, I think we talked about it, it's a dark hole, you know?
Yeah.
Focus on the positive stuff and changes you can make and good that you can bring into the world for everybody. That's the light at the end of the tunnel that can bring you back.
Yeah, but parents just can't blame themselves. We raise these children up. We hope they make the right decisions. And a lot of these abusers, these narcissistic, self-absorbed, they're pros. They're smooth. They're good. And it's hard to see it. They don't show you what they show their victims behind closed doors. It's real hard to see sometimes. So I hope you guys don't, and I hope parents at home don't blame themselves when they don't see all of these things, because they're just not obvious.
If you knew Gabby, she was always pretty happy girl. You know, people would gravitate towards her. You know, her nature was always to smile and treat everybody kind. She always made people feel welcome. Growing up, I mean, she always had those blue eyes, right? Those ridiculous blue eyes. You couldn't keep her in trouble. Like, you would ground her, and she'd start crying. She always wanted to go out and do stuff, whether it was scuba diving or hiking the Appalachian Trail, surfing sand dunes in Colorado. Gabby is the most amazing person I've ever met. So if you're gonna leave here today, I'm asking that you guys be inspired by the way she treated people. All people. Love knows no bounds. She didn't care. She genuinely loved people. It didn't matter. So when you leave here today, be inspired by what she brought to the table. Because the entire planet knows this woman's name now.
Unfortunately, we're out of time today, but there is a lot left to discuss with the family of Gabby Petito. Today, part 2 of the story about a young woman whose smile and sense of adventure has captivated America. Gabby Petito was found dead after a cross-country trip with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. Now, he returned home without her and is currently missing. Now, Gabby's family believes that he's not just missing, that he's on the run. And as they wait to bring their baby girl's body home, Gabby's family is sitting down all together for the very first time since the 22-year-old was found. Tell me what's been going on since you found out this tragic news about losing Gabby. What's life been like? What have you done?
Cry. Don't sleep, you don't eat. Do the scenarios in your head because we don't have the answers. You know, as I play the last moments of what I perceive what they would be, makes it even worse.
Try not to think about that.
Yeah,
Try not to think about that.
It's one rabbit hole after another. I keep on using that phrase, but there's no better way to go. I mean, you go down. You know, I'm fortunate to have these people here. You know, my brother. You know, friends, to kind of lighten up the mood and at least try and put a smile on my face. Got a great support system, but it's hell.
And y'all have been together.
Yes.
When we heard the news, because this is a big media case, that we didn't want media going to Nicole's house. So we left and then ended up getting a house so all the families and their children could be together and they could grieve in privacy alone.
Was that helpful?
Very much so.
More than you know.
Yes.
Yes.
Because there's not too many people that can understand. Like, you feel sorry and you can empathize, especially if you're a parent. You get it in your head, but until you're there, you don't have a clue.
And Gabby always wanted us to live in the same house together. So
She did.
Yes, she did.
she kind of got that.
You know, so she got that, and
I think it was really special for our younger children because they were able to bond with each other and take the time to kind of distance themselves from what was going on, and they were all together, and we could be together and talk about the things we were talking about, and then take the time to be with them and
Plan her memorial. And,
Well, I think that was important to get away from a naturally curious media. And also,
what's the other side of the coin? We asked for it too,
of course,
you know.
but then there's a time when it's time for family.
And there's little kids involved, and we wanted to protect them as much as we could.
Yeah,
Media has been great to us. I can't say they haven't.
yeah.
very respectful.
Usually you in particular. You know, I'd like to take this moment if I can. You know, I'm not going to say what you did, but what you did do for us helped us more than you'll know. Because you have been so awesome. Because the stuff that me and you talked about afterwards, you know, behind the scenes, and the stuff that you did, I can never repay. So I'm going to thank you personally on the air, man, so everybody can see that.
people see this, but they don't see everything behind the scenes. And I know we all have a greater appreciation for everything that you and your colleagues and all your staff truly
Your
do.
Beautiful wife.
You know, you guys know I talk from the heart. Rick's got to quiet me down a few times, so I'd say it honestly, you know, and all you guys that are in here, I mean, all the ones behind the camera, all the ones that do all the produce work, thank you. Downright thank you.
Well, it's our honor. You had a funeral last week. Tell me about that.
That was, you're numb when you're in it. I don't really remember a lot of it, other than that there was a lot of people there and a lot of support and a lot of love. And that's the biggest takeaway I got from it, was that she's changing a lot of lives. She's helping a lot of people, and a lot of people love her, and we're very blessed to have that.
You mentioned signs of seeing Gabby everywhere.
It's wild stuff.
Talk about that some.
When they were out and they started their grid search of the area that she was eventually found in, they had to call the search off at the end of the day because of the weather. And as the weather, you know, the rain and snow started to break, there was a rainbow across the sky that stopped. And it stopped right over the area where they eventually found her the next day. And where it stopped, there was a bald eagle that was flying in that area. And the search and rescue team said, that's a sign we're going to find her tomorrow. And since then,
Their signs are everywhere. It really
Rainbows,
is wild.
butterflies, yeah.
When we were coming home from the Northport press conference, there was a double rainbow. I've never seen a double rainbow, and it went from one side to the other. It was absolutely beautiful. I actually took a picture of it and I sent it right away to Nikki to say that this is a sign. Then when we flew up to New York from Florida, there was another rainbow right over Wilmington.
Where she used to live.
We saw 4 rainbows on the flight up. I've never seen
You
a
saw
rainbow
And there was more.
on a flight,
Yeah.
so to see 4 was,
The day they were doing the autopsy, I couldn't sit around, so I knew some of the areas that she liked to hike, so I went out and did a little hiking just to clear my head. And there was a chipmunk kind of following me on the path. I just thought it was a little odd. And it wasn't until the day the sheriffs allowed us to go out to where they actually found her body. And we wanted to go out there, and we got flowers, and I made the cross that was on everybody saw on the news. And as I started placing the rocks, I looked up, and a chipmunk came out of a hole right in front of me and sat at the edge of the cross and just sat there and didn't move while I placed all the stones and laid the flowers, and it just sat there and watched me. And I kind of went back and thought, maybe that was Gabby with me kind of walking, a couple days before, maybe this is her back, and it's just things like that that we've been seeing that it just reminds us of her.
The house that we stayed at, there were these couple chipmunks running back and forth
Yeah,
the whole
never
time.
seen a
The whole
chipmunk.
time. They'd come,
On
they'd
Long
stop, they'd
Island.
sit there for a second, dart off again, and they were just hanging out with us the whole time we were together. So
It's just
little things like that.
back in New York, a bumper sticker on a car that said Wyoming, and then the first 3 letters of the license plate, GBZ, Gabs. We called it Gabs. It's just
I just know
she's with us. We just know. It's just
Without a doubt.
Yeah, her spirit's just kind of in your lives. When you put this cross with the stones that were there, this was the area that you described.
it was the exact spot that they found her.
Yeah.
So I laid the cross directly over where her torso was, and I was told the direction in which her head was laying, and that's where I placed 2 flowers in the ground right there.
I give him a lot of credit for doing that. I don't know if I could have done that.
He sent us a picture of it.
Yeah,
We bawled.
that had to be tough.
Yes. Yeah. But I knew what
He knew he could handle it.
I knew what I was accepting when I took it on. The hardest thing was once they found her, not being able to take her home right away. And I understand their reasons, but we needed to mourn. We all needed to mourn. We needed to celebrate her life and remember her. But I wanted to bring her home at like that moment. But
What was the area like where you found her, where you put the cross?
so the dispersed campgrounds are basically just open land where anybody can go and camp. And where their van was basically alongside like a creek bed. And now it's just a little bit, a few tributary streams running through, but obviously in the springtime with the snow melt, it's much, much larger. So you have to cross over this creek bed, this rock area, and go through these tributaries. And then once you get on the other side, it's just some trees, sparsely placed throughout, and a lot of sagebrush, a lot of low brush. And it's actually on the borderline of the Grand Teton National Forest, and it was about maybe 40 feet away from where the Grand Teton National Park starts. And it was in an area where there was a few trees, and there was the remnants of a fire ring there, and you could see where those rocks had been moved to make the fire ring. There was a clearing where I would assume, knowing I have a similar tent, where I would place my tent, and that opening would face out overlooking the mountain range. And her body was found, I guess it would be in front of a tent, or if that's what was there, or just in front of the fire ring. There was definitely a fire ring there, and she would have been right.
And it wasn't far from the van. It was a 5-minute walk, you said, something like that.
5-10 minute walk.
Definitely an isolated area.
You would have to want to go out over into that area. It's not
Cross
like,
over the river. Yeah.
a lot of people go down to go by the creek and stuff like that, but not many people cross all the way over to go over there. It's definitely not an area that's heavily trafficked.
I know you've said it, and I echo all of y'all's sentiment to thank so many of you viewers and on social media that have stepped up and helped along the way already. You saw something, you said something, you did something, and social media and people going back and digging through pictures and looking and giving meaningful tips and meaningful information, and they've just been so appreciative of everyone helping out so much. And so I just want everybody to know, I know how much y'all appreciate all of that.
It's very appreciated.
So much support. We've never expected it, but so much.
And right up from the very beginning, when somebody saw something and made a 911 call and started the whole ball rolling of getting the police involved. And
everyone should have the same support we just did. There should be no one that doesn't have the same support. Absolutely.
Bystanders can make a big difference. You see something, it's easy to just walk on by, but you don't have to. Call 911.
As long as you can do it in a safe way, do it.
What was it like for you to hear that 911 call that somebody made?
I didn't listen to the whole call. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
I was angry
Yeah.
because it didn't make any sense.
We're driving by and I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Florida with the white van, Florida license plate, white land, gentleman.
Where's it at?
5-6 years. They just drove off. They're going down Main Street. They made a right onto Main Street from Moonflower.
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
There's new video. A police officer told Gabby that he can see a mark on her face. She initially dismissed it as an accident, but it wasn't an accident.
So there's two people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
Where'd you hit him?
I slapped him.
You slapped him first? And then what, just on his face?
You get to kind of just shut up.
How many times did you slap him?
Just a couple.
And then what? And then his reaction was to do what?
I had my arm, so I wouldn't slap him.
He just grabbed you?
Yeah.
Again, you can play what if and deconstruct a million different times in a million different ways, but all of these things can be learned from. I think this defund the police has been one of the most misunderstood things of all. Defund the police has not been properly represented in my view. It's really reallocating funds and having on-calls for domestic violence, to have a mental health worker on those calls that is educated as to what's going on so they can recognize red flags and warning signs.
Did he hit you though? I mean, it's okay if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you. Because
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be honest.
He grabbed my face. He's I guess. He didn't hit me in the face. He didn't punch me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, he grabbed me with his nail, and I guess that's why it was. I definitely have a cut right here. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Touch it, it burns.
The video speaks loud and clear.
It's very clear. One of the worst things you can do is to just separate them for 8 hours and then put them back together. That escalates the violence. It doesn't de-escalate the violence.
We're gonna come in here.
And that was exactly what was done in this situation.
Tyson? Yep. Officer Robin Spill called for me. This is Brian Laundrie. So he's gonna get you all set up with your hotel room.
Can you imagine what would happen if someone had been there that knows the things I'm talking about now at the time? If somebody that was trained in this was there, they might have known a different decision. These aren't little red flags. It's like a Navy flagman waving this back and forth when you see her blaming herself and her trying to make excuses for him. To someone that's trained in this situation, it's glaringly a situation where she's victimized, but if you're not trained in it, it's not obvious. Joe, you said that suffering without meaning, that all of you experiencing this loss without creating some purpose, some value, some meaning to it would just be the worst possible thing, just create inescapable insanity. What do you want to create from this?
I mean, we're starting the Gabby Petito Foundation. I mean, there's already been a lot of good things that has come from everybody searching for Gabby and the media being so good. Starting to have older missing people in terms of cases brought back onto, to the forefront, which is awesome. I mean, we got an email from people that are in bad relationships, and it's because it's inspired by Gabby. So, like, we want to start this foundation to help, to make sure people like Gabby, or people who are in similar situations as Gabby, don't end up that way.
I want to help bring awareness to the signs and...
But there are things that the media needs to do. If you're a news outlet, you should be finding, this is a missing person, help. The news outlets should be helping people. That's what they're there for. With us, we want to help, like I said, with people that are in that situation and make sure that doesn't happen again, because no one should feel what we're feeling, right?
And not all people that have someone go missing have a support system like you guys have
That's exactly the
created
point.
here. What advice would you give to families that had discourse after a divorce or whatever, and they have a family member go missing? What advice would you guys give to those families?
Put your differences aside and focus 100% on finding that family member. Use social media, utilize it. Call the news, ask them to help you. Somebody might say no, but keep calling until somebody says yes. Get their face out there. There's people out there that want to help. You just gotta work. It takes a lot of work.
Again, you talk about things happen off camera, behind the scenes and stuff. We had quite a long meeting yesterday and talked about using Gabby's life and all, and Robin was in that meeting at y'all's request, and she was so proud to meet all of y'all and sends her regards today.
She's awesome.
She was amazing.
Yeah, she's a special lady. We've been married 45 years.
She is your better half.
Yeah, no, but you talked about your foundation and wanting to impact missing people's stories and their families. And you made a great point about this being an effort that knows no color, no geography.
We want to help people. We got to have positive outcome, so it's not, Gabby's death isn't meaningless. Can't have that.
And that's what you're talking about, to just have something like that on the news. Just take that minute to say, hey, this person is missing, look at this picture. And there is the Amber Alert for children, but then adults go missing too.
There is no alert system for young adults, none.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because with domestic violence, as you know, between 19 and 25, I think, are the most affected here. So if there's someone of Gabby's age or in that range, there should be some type of alert system to pay attention to. I mean, that's the whole point of the Amber Alert and the Silver Alert, but there's nothing in between.
Some of the things that have changed now that we didn't have back then, when you would have that it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your kids are, and all those other avenues that used to advertise for missing people, is the positive use of social media. There are people that were contacting us, helping us, that were picking out things in people's social media, landmarks or places they may have last been in.
Telling us what apps to use.
Tell us what apps and
locations
and if anybody knows any of that information about any of these people that are out there missing, that could be a piece of the puzzle that the law enforcement or the family needs to help bring that loved one home.
It takes a village.
And you had a village in the Grand Tetons, and you really want to make a donation to the Grand Teton Search and Rescue volunteers as well, right? It was a real passion. They went over and above, right?
The Teton County Search and Rescue Team is a volunteer organization out there that works with all of the local law enforcement agencies, and what their level of training is above and beyond what most people can imagine as a career person, let alone a volunteer. And they were the ones who were part of the search that found Gabby. They've also recently now found another missing person in the same area. The work that they do is absolutely amazing, and it's all on donations and fundraisers. We couldn't think of a better place to start with helping them.
I just hope he's found. I really do.
He'll be found.
No, I mean, like, alive.
I want to look him in the eyes.
The more he runs, the more he hides, the less he could try to say it was a mistake or he had nothing to do with it.
I want to see him in a jail cell for the rest of his life, where he's an outdoorsman, being in that concrete cell, and he can't go see those trees and hug those, you know, and smell the fresh air like that.
As an outdoorsman, that would be in a cement box.
Yeah. You mentioned that on social media that there had been over 1 billion hashtags with Gabby.
Views, yes.
You want people to use that hashtag, use the domestic violence, and tell their story. Come forward and share that story so people know they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. If you got to tag hashtag Gabby Petito to bring that story to the top, do it. Do it. Do it now. There is no reason not to. We're not getting her back, but maybe you can get someone back, and that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And then let me know, because that would make me feel better, that there's not a meaningless death to Gabby.
They may feel hopeless, alone, but they're not alone.
We had a long meeting yesterday at our home here in Dallas, and Robin and I met with the 5 of these folks, and they wanted to meet because Robin has her foundation and take some guidance from that. And Robin and I came away from that meeting knowing that this is not a knee-jerk reaction on these people's part about saying, oh, let's put together a foundation, but instead a very thought out and heartfelt desire on their part. And I'm going to ask all of you that have been so seriously invested in this to join by making a donation to the Gabby Petito Foundation to honor her. And those funds are going to go to help find missing people, to help keep people in domestic violence situations from winding up like Gabby Petito. And Robin and I want to make a $25,000 donation to the foundation just to help get that going and moving forward. And we want to contribute in a lot of other ways as well. So please go to drphil.com, go to Dr. Phil Facebook page, click on the button. There will be a donation button there. Let's honor this young woman. Let's not let her loss go in vain.
Thank you. We're gonna work hard to help as many people as we can. I know we're just us, and we don't know what we can do, but we're gonna do our best.
Yes.
We're not gonna let Gabby be forgotten through helping others.
What would Gabby say if she knew, and I'm one of those that believes she does, about you doing this in her name?
She'd be excited that we're working together.
Yeah.
We're doing this together. This is what she wanted. She's always wanted us. She always wanted us to live in a big house together, you know what I mean? Because she's loved all of us, so.
I think she'd be proud.
Yeah.
Anything you want people to know about Gabby that they don't know?
What you see is what you get. Not that she was perfect. Obviously, we see both sides of her, and I'm glad we got to see that reality, because people aren't what you see on social media. Even though that police video is hard to watch, I think it was a blessing to see that, you know, she's a real human being and she was in pain. And I'm glad that she lived a really good life, and she died doing what she loved to do. She was out there in nature camping. That's what she wanted. She lived her dream, and I'm glad she got to do that.
She was just an amazing soul, you know, and she's beautiful inside and out, and she touched so many people. Anybody that met her, you know, just her smile was infectious, and her siblings always loved when she was around. It's going to be a hard void to fill not having her there with them. We're gonna work hard to
Gonna keep her spirit alive for
keeping her
the rest
spirit
of our
going
lives.
and be positive and just help people, because that's what she would do.
Anything you want people to know about Gabby?
Let's turn it to her first.
It's to follow your dreams. Don't let things hold you back. If there's something you want to do, do it. because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. Again, she traveled and she loved to see many different areas of the world, and that's what she wanted to do, and she did it. Don't let this hold you back.
You know, you said something at the funeral that I thought was so important, that if you're in a bad relationship, your goal should be to get out of it. And we want to acknowledge that there's a right way and a wrong way to get out of those relationships. On your website and on ours, we have safe exit plans on there, and those will be on the Gabby Petito website. The last thing you want to do is confront your abuser, and you don't want to get out just on the spur of the moment, because the vast majority of serious injuries and murders happen in that separation assault period, which is the few weeks when you leave your abuser and they panic and have a frustration effect and they ratchet it up even more.
There are plans to do it, and there are ways to do it.
Yeah.
And we'll help people find that stuff. I mean, that's I mean, I'm trying to educate myself, and like Robin, she's been very helpful and going to help us do that too, but there are safe ways to do it.
Guys, I can't thank you enough for doing this, and I know that this is going to save so many people. Gabby is inspiring people's lives today, this conversation, bringing this to the forefront. We're talking about a silent epidemic in America, and you're using her life today. I'm not saying it's worth it, but since we don't have the choice of changing it, we're at least using what is. That is creating meaning, and that's what you're doing.
We know.
And we're going to continue to work together in the future.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
A special thanks to Gabby Petito's family, Nicole, Jim, Kara, and Joe, and their attorney, Richard Stafford, for being here all together today to honor Gabby. Now, I know her legacy will live on through them and the amazing work they're doing. If you want to support them in their quest to make Gabby's life not have been taken in vain, then log on to GabbyPetitoFoundation.org. We will also link that site for you on drphil.com. Now remember, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And if you or someone you know is struggling with domestic violence, please look for information on whengeorgiasmile.org or download the Aspire app created by Robin in your app store. It's free, and we already know that it's life-saving. I want to again thank her family for sharing their memories of Gabby with us, the way they want her to be remembered. Be safe. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here, guys. Thank you all so much.
Gabby Petito's parents.
We're working together.
The police video.
I'm glad we got to see if she's a real human being and she was in pain.
And if Brian Laundrie was involved.
I want to see him in a jail cell for the rest of his life.
He's an outdoors man that would be in a cement box.
A Dr. Phil exclusive. Check your local listings.